Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Patam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpataru Vyasya Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome back to the Nectar of Instruction discussion. We finished text 9 in the last class, and then we began with text 10 discussion. So today we will take up text 10, especially the purport. It is quite brief, and we will go to text 10, and then let us see if we can begin today text 11 also. So text 10 is also in a different meter. I think it is in again Vasantalika. I'll just recite. We had recited this verse in the last class, but once again we will recite this. Karmebhya parito hare priyataya vyaktim yayorgyanina tebhyo jnana vimukta bhakti parama premeka nishtastata tebhyasta pashupala pankajadrishas tabhyo pisaradhika preshta tadvadyam tadya sarasi tamna shayat ka kriti. So here basically the theme is superior to the karmis are the Gyanis. The karmis are dear to Krishna because they follow the path of Vedas. So superior to the karmis are the Gyanis. And those who are Gyana Vimukta, those who are liberated by Gyana and they take up to Bhakti, they are superior to the Gyanis. And those who have taken to Bhakti, those who have attained Prema Bhakti, like Narad Muni and the 4 Kumaras, they are still more dear to the Lord. And the Gopis who are Premi Bhaktas of the Lord, they are still more dear to Lord. And Tabhyo Pisa Radhika, among the Gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna, Preshta. That's why it is referred as, another name of Srimati Radharani is also Preshta. And similarly, Tadvad Tadya Sarasi, as Srimati Radharani is very dear to Krishna, similarly is dear Radha Kund for Krishna. Tamna Shayat Kakriti. Who is that fortunate person who will not take shelter and execute his devotional service on the banks of Radha Kund. So that's what the point Rupa Goswami makes. So we discussed that text 10, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Bhajankari Madhye Sarvashresht. Text 9 spoke about Bhajaniya Sthala Madhye Sarvashresht. In text 8, it was mentioned, Tishtan Vraje. One should situate himself in Vraj and execute his bhajan. Now, within Vraj, which is the most holiest of the holiest place, has been established in text 9. Now, in text 10, who is the topmost of the devotee? And ultimately, that topmost devotee, we should take shelter. And it has been established that the topmost devotee is Srimati Radharani, and similarly is her Kund. So, by taking shelter of Sri Radha Kund, we can attain Krishna Prem. So the hierarchy of the devotee is being emphasized in text 10. Here the hierarchy of the spiritual abodes has been discussed, of the spiritual places has been discussed in text 9. Text 10 is discussing hierarchy of the devotees, and indirectly again it is establishing the glory of Sri Radha Kund, which is non-different from Srimati Radha Rani. So this is where we had stopped our discussion, and we saw this chart, the hierarchy. First is the Vikarmi, then the Karmi, then the Gyani, then the Bhakta, then the Premi Bhakta, then the Gopis, who are the topmost Premi Bhaktas, and then it is Srimati Radharani and Radha Kund. So this is the hierarchy here. Now Prabhupada in 2 paragraphs discusses about Karmis. So we will see these 2 paragraphs about Karmi, and then he discusses about the Gyani. So we will go to Srila Prabhupada's purport. At the present moment, almost everyone is engaged in some kind of fruitive activity. Those who are desirous of gaining material profits by working are called karmis, or fruitive workers. So here Prabhupada gives a generic definition of who is a karmi. Those who desire to earn material profits by working, they are called as karmis. So this is a very generic definition, and it can refer even in the modern context, the karmis. Sometimes devotees say, materialistic are karmis, materialist people are karmis, they work very hard. So we term them as karmis, but sometimes Srila Prabhupada in his purports also refers that there are 4 kinds of transcendentalists, the karmis, the gyanis, the yogis, and the bhaktas. So there then Srila Prabhupada, when he refers to karmis, he means those who are following the path of Vedas in order to attain material profits like attaining Swarga. So karmi, here is a generic here Prabhupada is using. All living entities within this material world come under the spell of Maya. This is described in Vishnu Puran. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetragya Akhya Tata Para Avidya Karma Samgyaya Tritiya Shaktir Ishyate. The sages have divided the energies of the Lord into 3 categories: spiritual energy, marginal energy, and material energy. The material energy is considered to be 3rd class energy, Tritiya Shakti. Those living entities within the jurisdiction of the material energy sometimes engage themselves like dogs and hogs in working very hard simply for sense gratification. So they are also called as karmis in one sense, but they are what I term as non-religious materialist. Here the term is non-religious materialist, whereas there are the religious materialist who follow the karma kanda portion of the Vedas. They are also karmis, but in order to enjoy sense gratification, they follow the path of Vedas. So that's why they are called as religious materialist. But those who want sense gratification without following the path of Vedas, they are also karmis, but they are non-religious materialists. They don't come in the fold of the Vedas. So that's the slight difference between the two. However, in this life or after executing pious activities in the next life, some karmis become strongly attracted to performing various kinds of sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. Thus, on the strength of their pious merit, they are elevated to heavenly planets. Now, Prabhupada, actually, if you see, he is speaking about karmis. There are two, sub-classifications Prabhupada is doing. One is karmis, who are non-religious materialist, and then there are what Prabhupada sometimes also use the term sukarmis. Sukarmis means those who execute pious activities following the path of Vedas. But karmis, when I use the karmis term karmi here, it means those who act very honestly and work in this world for attaining material profits. But there are another type of class of people who are called as vikarmis. Vikarmis are, they also work very hard for sense gratification, but they perform all kinds of impious activities in order to attain sense gratification, or they attain sense gratification by dishonest means like robbery, thief, theft, and all. Some might work very hard in this world honestly. By honest means they might earn money and they might enjoy. So this I term as karmis. Those by dishonest means they enjoy sense gratification, they are vikarmis. And those who follow the path of Vedas and want to enjoy in the heavenly planets, they are called as sukarmis. So within karmis, there is vikarmis, there are karmis, and there are sukarmis. So Prabhupada is speaking here about specially how a karmi becomes sukarmi. Means they work by honest means, they are pious, but now they perform Vedic activities. They become sukarmis or follow the path of karma kanda, and by that they want to enjoy in the heavenly planets. Actually, those who perform sacrifices strictly according to Vedic injunctions are elevated to the moon and planets above the moon. As mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Shine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti. After exhausting the results of so-called pious activities, they again return to earth, which is called Martyaloka, the place of death. Although such persons to the heavenly planets by their pious activities, they are sukarmis, and although they may enjoy their life for many thousands of years, they nonetheless must return to this planet when the result of their pious activities are exhausted. So, Shine Punye Martalokam. So, if those who are pious take up to the path of Vedas and perform religious activities mentioned in the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas and do yagyas, ultimately, by the strength of those pious activities, they can go to the heavenly planets and there enjoy. While they are enjoying there, all the pious activities, fruits are getting exhausted. And when their enjoyment is complete and all the pious activities are exhausted, then they fall down. They come down back to this earth, Martyalokam, Shine Punye Martyalokam. Similarly is the case of vikarmis. The vikarmis in this world, by dishonest means, illegally, might amass wealth to enjoy. And because they have taken to this illegal means, they get sinful reactions. And because of their sinful reactions, they go and suffer in hell. And when their suffering is exhausted, then they also come back to earth. So it is only on earth we can generate karma. we can generate karma. Karmani bandini manushaloke. In the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, I think in the fourth or the fifth verse, that all the human beings are bound by the laws of karma here. So if we do pious activities following the path of Vedas, we'll attain heaven. If we do sinful activities, we'll go to hell. But if we do spiritual activities, especially devotional activities, we can go back to the spiritual world. So the human body and especially the soul in this human birth has unlimited potency, whereby in one lifetime you can generate so much karma that you can prepare yourself for millions of bodies to acquire in the future. If somebody does many sinful activities in this life, then for those sinful activities as a reaction, he'll have to take millions of species of life in the sinful species of life and suffer the karmic reactions of one human birth. Similarly, if one executes a lot of pious activities in this life, then also he has to take millions of bodies, heavenly bodies, or bodies in the earthly planet in the class of rich people where he can enjoy, or even in the subterranean, in the Antariksh, the other lokas like the Gandharva Loka and all other lokas are there. So he might generate so much pious activities that he'll have to spend many human bodies or heavenly higher bodies where he can enjoy those pious activities. And in the human form of life, if we practice devotional service, not only all the future bodies we are supposed to take because of our past karmic reactions will be destroyed, but we will be able to develop a spiritual body and go back to the spiritual world. So that is the glory of Martyaloka, earth. That's why even the Devatas want to take birth on earth. So this was just an additional point with respect to Martyalokam. Paragraph 2. This is the position of all karmis, including those who act piously and those who act impiously. So I explained how those who act impiously also suffer in the hellish planets and ultimately come back to Martyalok. On this planet, we find many businessmen, politicians, and others who are simply interested in material happiness. They attempt to earn money by all means, not considering whether such means are pious or impious. Such people are called karmis or gross materialist. So Prabhupada is using the word here, gross materialist or karmis, and this is in this sense, non-religious materialist, the non-religious materialist. So this is a difference we should have, especially with the word karmi, because sometimes Prabhupada uses it interchangeably. Now he says, among the karmis are some vikarmis. So I was mentioning, that's why I made this distinction between karmis, vikarmis, and sukarmis. Karmis are by honest means, they work in this world by honestly acquiring wealth and enjoying. Vikarmis, illegally, they commit a lot of impious activities to enjoy. The sukarmis do pious activities mentioned in the Vedas to enjoy. So that's why Prabhupada is here making a little distinction. Among the karmis are some are vikarmis, people who act without guidance of Vedic knowledge. Those who act on the basis of Vedic knowledge perform sacrifices for the satisfaction of Vishnu and to receive benedictions from him. In this way, they are elevated to the higher planetary systems. Such karmis are superior to vikarmis, for they are faithful to the direction of the Vedas and are certainly dear to Krishna. So here Prabhupada is making that point between distinction between karmis and vikarmis, and you can also call this as sukarmis, so that just to have a clear distinction, because sometimes Prabhupada uses, so we can say this as sukarmis. So the weak karmis, they act impiously without the guidance of Vedic knowledge. They are degraded into lower species and they are not appreciated by the learned. This will come up in this paragraph only. And foolishly, they make plans to become happy in this world. Whereas the Sukarmis, they act piously based on the Vedas. They are superior to Vikarmis because they perform yagyas for satisfaction of Krishna. They are elevated to the higher planets, but they have to return back. That Prabhupada had quoted, Shine Punya Martelokam. But here is an important point which Prabhupada will bring out later on. As long as they remain attached to fruitive activities, they must return to new material bodies. So the position of karmis is also not so good because heaven is also part of this material world. So although they get elevated to heaven, but have to still come back to this material world. So here the point is, certainly they are dear to Krishna. The karmis are dear to Krishna because they follow the path of Vedas. Ultimately, slowly, gradually, they will elevate themselves. They are performing Sakama Bhakti, and later on, ultimately to the Devatas, but later on they will start performing Sakama Bhakti towards Krishna, and then they will come to the highest platform, that is Nishkama Bhakti towards Krishna, pure love for Krishna. So that happens gradually. That is the plan of the whole Vedic knowledge, which is given. The whole body of Vedic knowledge is given in such a way that it can accommodate all class of living beings who are different with different mentalities. But the most important point here is that they are dear to Krishna. Now, this understanding is very important for devotees. Otherwise, we end up committing offenses to those who are following the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. So this will be which offense among the 10 offenses in the name? Anyone knows? Can raise their hand? It will be which offense among the 10 offenses in the holy name? If we criticize those who are following the path of Karma Kanda, which is offense every day? Yes, Mohan Rupsham Prabhu has raised his hand. Yes, Prabhuji. Audio is, yeah.
Is it first offense?
Sadhu Ninda, who is a sadhu is very clearly defined by the acharyas that the sadhu is actually a pure devotee of Krishna, or he's a devotee of Krishna, not a devotee of a demigod. So there is Ratna Mataji. Yes, Mataji?
Is it the fourth offense, Prabhu, to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance to Vedic version? Because that is what karma kandis do usually.
Yes, it is the fourth offense. We blaspheme the Vedic literature, Shruti Shastra Nindanam. So how we indirectly do is those who are following those portion of the Vedas, when we criticize, we are indirectly criticizing those portions of the Vedas. So that's how we should be careful about it, because they are very, very dear to Krishna. This is what Rupa Goswami is mentioning here. Those who are following the path of Karma Kanda are certainly dear to Krishna. This is the point. In Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Krishna says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. In whatever way one surrenders unto me, I reward him accordingly. Krishna is so kind that he fulfills the desires of the karmis and the gyanis, not to speak of the bhaktas. So this verse is a very interesting verse. The karmis worship Krishna as Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam, and they want bhog. So because they desire like that, Krishna gives them bhog. And the Gyanis also worship Lord in his impersonal feature in order to become free from cycle of birth and death and attain liberation. So Krishna reciprocates accordingly. the Mayavadis think that the absolute truth is impersonal Brahman. His body is made of Maya. And they condemn Krishna's body. Avajananti Mamuda Manusham Tanuma Ashrita. So Krishna lovingly reciprocates with them by putting them in the bodies of composed of Maya. So they repeatedly are there in the cycle of birth and death. Oh, you say that my body is made of Maya. So I will put you in bodies of Maya. So that's how Krishna reciprocates with them. So the karmis want to enjoy this world. So Krishna gives that the enjoyment. And the Gyanis think that ultimately Brahman is supreme and merging in Brahman is the topmost goal. So Krishna reciprocates. And the devotees, they understand this principle, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, that Krishna's birth activities are all transcendental. So Krishna reciprocates by making that devotees' birth and activities also transcendental. That means he will not be again born in this samsara. He will go back to the spiritual world. And along with Krishna, these eternal associates will come to perform wonderful activities as what we say as Leela in this world. So Krishna makes his devotees' birth and activities also transcendental. So that's how Krishna reciprocates. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva vajamyam. Krishna is so kind that he fulfills the desires of the karmis and gandhis, not to speak of the bhaktas. Although the karmis are sometimes elevated to higher planetary systems, as long as they remain attached to fruitive activities, they must accept new material bodies after death. So, heavenly planets, which is the goal of the karma kandis, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, verse 42-43, that Vedavadarata Partha Nanyat Asti Iti Vadina Kamatma Swargapara. Their Atma is filled with Kam and Swargapara. There is no other higher goal than attaining Swarga. So, because Swarga is part of this material world, it is not spiritual. So, that's why they have to repeatedly take birth in this material world and accept newer and newer material bodies. If they act piously, they can attain a new body among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, or he may attain some other position in which he can enjoy a higher standard of material happiness. On the other hand, those who are engaged in impious activities are degraded and take birth in animal, trees, and plant species. Those fruitive actors who do not care for the Vedic directions, that is the vikarmis, are not appreciated by the learned persons. And this is what Prabhupada is quoting. Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma. Here the word is very clear, vikarma. For what? Yand indriya pritya apnoti. Na sadhu manne. The sadhus don't. Yata atmanoyam. Asannapi kleshada ashra deha. They work very hard like dogs and hogs for sense gratification, and they are mad, pramapta. And they perform all types of abominable activities for sense gratification. That means any means. Yadindriya priti. They perform any kind of sinful activity. And these kind of activities are not appreciated by the intelligent man. Na sadhu manya. For as a result of such activities, one gets a material body which is full of misery. Asannapi kleshada ashtadeha. So those who are vikarmis are not appreciated even by the saintly persons. But those who are karmis are actually appreciated by the saintly persons because they are following the path of Vedas. In that sense, we should be careful about not committing offenses to karmis. The purpose of the human life is to get out of the threefold miserable conditions which are concomitant with material existence. Janam mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. So there are these four problems. There is birth, which is miserable. There is death, which is very miserable. And in between there is old age. Old age begins, misery begins. It's everyday misery. And then the misery is expanded with diseases attacking you. So we feel that, oh, these four problems, birth, death, old age, birth happens only once and death happens only once. And old age is very late. And disease, it's not that 24 hours we are disturbed. Sometimes disease attack us. So it's not all the time. So there are only four times in our life these might come. But along with these four problems, there is Adhyatmika Klesha, Adi Bhautika Klesha, and Adi Daivika Klesha, which inflict misery upon the living entity all the time. It's all the time. So that's why we are supposed to get out of these threefold miseries. Unfortunately, fruitive workers are mad to earn money and acquire temporary material comforts by all means. Therefore, they risk being degraded to lower species of life. Materialists foolishly make many plans to become happy in this material world. So here when Prabhupada is referring to fruitive workers, he is referring to whom specifically? Because I explained there are the term karmi we can use in three ways. So specifically, whom is he referring to? Can you answer? Whom is he referring to especially? Among the three categories which I mentioned, whom is he referring to in that paragraph? Yeah, there is one is yes, it is referring to vikarmis. In fact, it can refer to karmis also, as I mentioned. Even by honest means also, if you are working very hard to attain temporal pleasures, you will slowly get degraded. Whereas the vikarmis, by performing all kinds of sinful activities, they are going to get degraded to hellish life. Whereas those who are acting by honest means, they might again come back on earth in a human body and again go through the same thing. Vikarmis, specifically vikarmis, you can say here, it doesn't refer to sukarmis because they are getting elevated. They do not stop to consider that they will live only for a certain number of years, out of which they must spend a major portion acquiring money for sense gratification. Ultimately, such activities end in death. Materials do not consider that after giving up the body, they may become embodied over plants or trees. Thus, all their activities simply defeat the purpose of life. Not only they are born ignorant, but they act on the platform of ignorance, thinking that they are getting material profits in the shape of skyscraper buildings, big cars, honorable positions, and so on. So puja la pratishta, we are getting tangible results in the form of house, bungalow, cars, position in this world, but they don't know what is their position in the next life. Which species of life they will be there, they don't know. Once Srila Prabhupada, along with his disciples, was visiting some place. In fact, they were about to show him a church which they wanted to buy and convert it into a temple. So while going, Prabhupada saw there was a beautiful palatial building. And Prabhupada stopped and asked his disciples, let us go and see this place. Prabhupada, this is not the place. You have to show you another church. No, I want to see this place. So when he entered the place, he saw there was a beautiful gate, highly ornamental, decorated. Prabhupada appreciated, oh, it's artistic work. And then Prabhupada just entered the building and he was seeing it was a beautiful, well-designed house. And Prabhupada was appreciating the arches and the windows, the designs, all the carvings which are done in this house. So devotees could not understand why is Prabhupada appreciating, such a materialistic businessman's house. So Prabhupada later on, after observing everything, has built this house. He has spent a lot and he has a lot of taste for all this. Definitely in the next life, he will become a lizard because he's very attached to his house. So, we might have big skyscraper buildings, big cars, big position, but we don't know what is your next life going to be. Prabhupada predicted that his next life will be a lizard and he'll hang on the wall there, attached to the house. Prabhupada also once spoke, this is Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he speaks that in his book, Servant of the Servant, that Prabhupada once said that, especially in Bombay, he was speaking about the lawyers, especially the High Court lawyers, who suck a lot of money from the clients to fight their cases. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj and His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj had to visit the courts that time because of the Jew, some legal case was there. And that time Tamal Krishna Maharaj mentions this, that on the wooden benches there were a lot of bugs. And these bugs, bite us and suck our blood. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj mentioned that these bugs were previous life, they were lawyers here. Before they were sucking the client's money, now they are having that same habit of sucking blood. So they don't know their position, what it will be in the next life. The materialists do not know what in the next life they will be degraded, and that all their activities simply serve as prabhava, their defeat. That this is the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhavas tavad abodha jata. Abodha jata means, they don't know what is their previous. Prabhava means defeat. Tavat, as long as abodha jata, produced of ignorance. Yavat na jigyasa atma tattva. As long as they don't inquire about atma tattva. Yavat kriya tavat idam manavay karmatma yena sharira baddha. As long as the mind is having this fruitive tendency to do actions, mind is colored with fruitive activity. That means as long as the mind is impure, the consciousness is unclear, they will be absorbed in fruitive activity and he has to accept a material body, Sharira Baddha. So Prabhupada will refer to this Sharira Baddha in his explanation further. So all their activities are a defeat. Now from next paragraph onwards, I think 1, 2, and 3 paragraphs, he explains who is a Gyani. So I have summarized everything in the slides here. The Gyani is one who understands the science of soul. He knows that fruitive activities will bind him to material existence, refrains from blind activities of sense enjoyment. Thus, Gyani is considered superior to Karmi. Unless he comes to the platform of devotional service, still he is considered to be in ignorance. When a Gyani takes to devotional service, he rapidly becomes superior to an ordinary Gyani. So how from a Gyani? First, Prabhupada will explain superior to Karmi is a Gyani, and superior to a Gyani is Jnana Vimukta Bhakti Premika, one who takes up to devotion. So now Prabhupada, these 3 paragraphs will explain the Gyani. Let us go through it. Any questions, any clarifications up to now, what you have discussed till now? I hope it is clear about the Karmis and the Vikarmis. Anyone has any questions? Okay. So let's briefly go through this Gyani section. It's quite simple. One should be eager to understand the science of the soul, Atma Tattva. unless one comes to the platform of Atma Tatma, by which one understands that the soul and not the body is oneself, one remains in the platform of ignorance. So even for us as devotees, as long as we are practicing devotional service and we have not realized that we are the soul and not this body, we are also in one sense in a level of ignorance. But by the process of Bhakti Yoga, this avidya or ignorance is quickly being destroyed. That is the added advantage of the Bhakti path. Out of thousands and even millions of ignorant people who are wasting their time simply gratifying their senses, one may come to the platform of knowledge and understand the higher values of life. Such a person is called a Gyani. Now, who is a Gyani? Prabhupada says, a Gyani knows that fruitive activities will bind him to material existence and cause him to transmigrate from one kind of body to another body, as indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam by the term Sharira Baddha, bound to bodily existence. Sharira Baddha. So as long as one mind is colored with fruitive activity, one will perform fruitive activity and one will have to take up bodies. So the Gyani understands any action in this world, if you do, there's a reaction. And that is why the Gyanis renounce this world, take sannyas, and refrain themselves from doing any actions. And they just purify their existence by philosophical speculation, by studying the Vedanta and the Upanishads. So that is the path of Gyan, Sharira Baddha. In the Gita also, Krishna, in the second chapter, he mentions, in the second chapter, verse 51, Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tektva manishina janma bandha vinirmukta padam gacchantya Karmajam. Karmajam means born out of karma, due to fruitive activities here. Buddhi yuktahi, one who is engaged in devotional service. Phalam tektva manishina. These are the great sages of the devotees. Prabhupada is using sages for the Gyanis here and devotees also. So those who are Gyanis, they perform actions in one sense. It is a slow graduation from Karma Kanda to Nishkam Karma Yoga, by which one can attain liberation. So Phalam Tektva Manishina. And what happens? Janma Bandha. Janma Bandha means from the bondage of birth and death. So Prabhupada explains birth means death, birth means old age, birth means disease. So that is why the Gyanis understand that we should not take another birth in this material world. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. And that is why they want to attain liberation, and they don't want to, they have fear of samsara, and any action done in this world will bind us. Vinir Mukta. Vinir Mukta. They become liberated and attain that place which is free from miseries. Anamayam. Prabhupada makes it clear. Anamayam is going back to Godhead from the Bhakti perspective. So Janma Bandha means what? Birth, death, old age, disease. And Sharira Baddha is also a very similar term. Sharira Baddha is the same thing Prabhupada is saying here in the purport. Sharira Baddha means it is taking bodies by which we have to suffer. As long as one maintains any conception of sense enjoyment, his mind will be absorbed in karma, fruitive activity, and this will oblige him to transmigrate from one body to another. So even for devotees, as long as we have any conception of any kind of sense gratification, any tinge of sense gratification which is there in the mind, till then also we cannot relish pure devotion. That is why in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu it is mentioned, Bhukti Mukti Pishachi Yavat Riddhi Vartate. The Pishachi means the demoness in the form of Bhakti and Mukti. Bhakti means enjoyment and Mukti means liberation. Yavat Ridhi, as long as it is there in the heart, Katham, how can one experience the bliss of devotion? So as long as for us also we are not free from this conception of sense enjoyment, the mind is still tainted with impressions to enjoy this world. Till then, we are also not able to relish the bhakti ras. So that is just added explanation, although it is for Gyanis, but it equally applies for the devotees for us. Thus, a Gyani is considered superior to Karmi because he at least refrains from blind activities of sense enjoyment. This is the verdict of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, although a Gyani may be liberated from the ignorance of the Karmis, unless he comes to the platform of devotional service, he is still considered to be in ignorance, avidya. Now, from the Karmi's perspective, the Gyani is superior. But from the Bhakti perspective, the Gyani is considered still in ignorance. Because from the Bhakti definition, those who aspire for liberation, that is not considered very high. From the Bhakti definition, these four kinds of liberation, the devotees don't accept. What to speak about? Sarupya. Sorry, Sayujya. So Sayujya is worse like going to hell. That's how the devotee definition is. So in that sense, unless the Gyanis take up to devotion, they are still in ignorance. Or maybe they are, in one sense, free from ignorance compared to the Karmis. But from the Bhakti perspective, they are still in ignorance. Although one may be accepted as a Gyani or one advanced in knowledge, his knowledge is considered impure because he has no information of devotional service and thus neglects the direct worship of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. So here Srila Prabhupada is referring to one verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone has any idea which verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam Srila Prabhupada is referring here? Anyone has any idea? Can raise your hands. Which verse is Srila Prabhupada referring here? One devotee has raised his hand here. Let us see if anyone else is there. Anyone else knows from which section of the Srimad Bhagavatam is Prabhupada paraphrasing there? Anyone has any other idea which verse it is? Okay. Yes, Devendra Prabhuji. Okay.
Those who commit offense and notice.
Yes. Yes, Srivalli. Yes, Ratna Mataji. Which is the verse Prabhupada is referring?
I'm not very sure, Prabhu, but is it Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yogena? Is it that one?
No, not that verse. Actually, it is referring from the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, prayers to the demigods, in verse 31 or 32. Yes, this is the verse. Ye anye arvindaksha vimuktamaaninas tvaya asta bhavad avishuddha buddhaye aruya kuchena parampadam tata patanti ado nadrita yushmadangriya. Although there are others, they don't worship Arvindaksha, but they think they are liberated. But still, their intelligence is impure, avishuddha buddhaye. Why? Although they have attained this platform of impersonal Brahman, Arur Kruchena Parampadam, they have attained this highest platform, patantyada, they fall down. Why? Anadrita yushmadangriya, because they commit offenses at your lotus feet. Anadrita, they neglect devotion to you. So this is the verse which Srila Prabhupada is quoting here. So you can mark in your books 10 to 32. That is the verse Srila Prabhupada is quoting here. He's mentioning, although they are advanced, because their knowledge is clear, they have no information of devotion service, they neglect lotus feet of the Lord. Then Prabhupada says, when a Gyani takes to devotional service, he rapidly becomes superior to ordinary Gyani. Such an advanced person is described as Gyana Vimukta Bhakti Parama. So a Gyana Vimukta Bhakti Parama is a Gyani who has taken up to Bhakti, who has understood the superiority of Bhakti. So this is how a Gyani becomes a Bhakta. Bhaunam Janmanamante Gyanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sahamatma Sudurlabha. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Gyanavan. Now a Gyani is in knowledge. But when a Gyani becomes Gyanavan, the Gyani becomes Gyanavan when Mam Prapadyate, when he surrenders to Krishna. As long as he doesn't surrender to Krishna, he is not Gyanavan. He's a Gyani, but he's not Gyanavan. He doesn't possess full knowledge. He's having knowledge, but he doesn't have full knowledge or realized knowledge. That is why the word has been used, Gyanavan. And what he understands, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sahamatma Suradurlabha. That the all-pervading Brahman, ultimately the source is Vasudeva. So he understands that ultimately this all-pervading Brahman is an effulgence of Krishna's body or Vasudeva. Vasudeva is everything. And such a soul is very, very rare. So here in this verse, it is mentioned Bahunam Janmanam Ante, after many births and deaths. So how many? 1, 10, 100, 1,000. After how many births does a Gyani surrender to Krishna? We know that if a Gyani has practiced the path of Gyan, in the next life, he will take up to that same process and continue until he attains perfection. But a Gyani, to become a Bhakta, he has to come in the association of a pure devotee. So as long as he doesn't come in the association of pure devotees, that many lifetimes he will be practicing the path of Gyana. And sorry, there's some disturbance here. Because of the Ganesh festival, there are some crackers. And we should understand that even the path of Gyan is a multi lifetime process to attain perfection. So while executing this path of Gyan, if he is fortunate to come in the association of a pure devotee, and because of that pure devotee's association, he gets the faith of Shraddha and he gets the highest knowledge of Krishna, then he surrenders to Krishna, and then that Gyani becomes a devotee. So that is how a Gyani becomes a Bhakta. After taking to devotional service under the regulative principles, a person may come to the platform of spontaneous love of Godhead, following the footsteps of great devotees like Narada, Sanaka, and Sanatana. So one practice, what is called as, which kind of practice of bhakti this is called in this paragraph, in the first statement Prabhupada is explaining. What kind of practice this is called? The bhakti terminology. Anyone knows can raise their hands. After one takes up to bhakti, what does he initially practice first? What type of bhakti he practices? What is it called? Yes, there is one answer here. Yeah, there is a second answer here, which is One Mataji has typed as sadhana bhakti, but especially it specifically refers to Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, the bhakti which is practiced under regulative principles. So by practicing this sadhana bhakti, one will attain prema. And here two examples are given. Narada and Sanak and Sanatan. They are also great lovers of God, but they are premi bhaktas. But superior to them are the Gopis of Vrindavan. Because Narada is in Shanta and Dasaras. Basically, it is Dasya, not in Shanta, sorry. Dasya and little bit of Sakya. The four Kumaras are in Shantaras. They are also great pure devotees of the Lord, have attained prema for the Lord. But the highest premi bhaktas are the Gopis. So now from the next paragraph about these highest devotees, that is the Gopis, is being described. Now, here in the slide, I have again pointed out these points, just summarize these points in one sense. This is about the Gyanis. Then a Gyani becomes a devotee. He does devotional service under regulative principles. He practices Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and then he comes to prema bhakti. And the examples are Narad, Sanak and Sanatan. Among the prema bhaktis, they are the Gopis who are the topmost. So there are prema bhaktis in the Shantaras, they are prema bhaktis. In Dasiras, there are prema bhaktis in Sakyaras, there are prema bhaktis in Vatsalaras. But the topmost prema bhaktis or premi bhaktis are in Madhuriras. So among all those who have attained prema bhakti, the Gopis are the topmost. So that is being emphasized here. And that is in the next paragraph, which we will discuss from now on. There is one question which we will take up. Yes, Mataji. I've unmuted you.
Like how we were talking about Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, following in the footsteps then means Raganuga bhakti. So in that now, you said Narada comes in Sakhya and Dasya and Sanaka Sanatana come in the Shanta Rasa, and the Gopis are in Madhurya Rasa. So is there a transition between these also, Prabhu, or are they to be considered different branches?
Okay, very, very nice question. Very interesting question. And I specifically did not in detail take up about it because I wanted to see whether the devotees are attentively hearing. So basically, anyone who takes to devotion the path of bhakti, he starts first practicing Vaidhi sadhana bhakti or Vaidhi bhakti. And by practicing Vaidhi bhakti in any of the sampradayas, I'm saying now, whether it is Sri Sampradaya, Madhu Sampradaya, if they take up to Vaidhi bhakti, they will attain Vaidhi bhav and they will attain Vaidhi prem. But only in this sampradaya, which is called as the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the six Goswamis. And the six Goswamis is the path which is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, by which you take up to Raganuga sadhana bhakti. And only if you take up to Raganuga sadhana bhakti, then you attain Bhava bhakti and Prema bhakti and attain Golok Vrindavan the four rasas. There is dasya, but that dasya is not of the Vaikuntha dasya. In Vaikuntha, the servants of the Lord don't have any intimacy. But in Vrindavan, the servants of Krishna like Chitrak, Rattak, Patrak, they also play with the Lord and they also act as servants. The Dasya, the Sakya Ras is fully manifested in Golok Vrindavan. So those who practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and take up to Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, they attain Bhava and Prema in Golok Vrindavan. But all other paths of Bhakti in the other Sampradayas, they take to Vaidhi Bhakti, they attain Vaidhi, but it is in Vaikuntha mood, Aishwarya mood, not in the Golok mood of Krishna who is filled with sweetness. The four Kumaras also, their worshipable Lord is Narayan. So they also are Premi Bhaktas, but it is mostly in Shantras, not higher rasas. So this path, whereby practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, we graduate to Raganuga Sadhana, which has been given by the Goswamis and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Only by that we can attain the Bhava of Vrindavan in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya and attain Golok. So that is very unique. I hope it is clear, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I understood from what you said that this Madhurya Rasa is there only in our Sampradaya.
Yes.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Prabhu. But then Sanaka, Sanatana and all, as you said, they are in Dasya and Shantarasa and all. Then in Shantarasa, then how does Dasya and the Aishwarya mode come, Prabhu?
Oh, this is a very vast subject. Only when you come to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we'll understand these finer aspects. First thing we have to understand in Shant Ras, what is exactly Shant Ras? It's very difficult to conceive what exactly Shant Ras at the Prema stage. But just to give an example, Shant Ras is where one understands that the Lord is magnanimous. He has an awe and reverence to the Lord. Oh, the Lord is one who is the Shrishti Karta, who is the maintainer, who is the controller of this universe. I have worship and adoration features. I am attracted to those features and I worship that Lord in that mood. And there is no manifestation of a service mood in Shantras. Just like even in a house, if the husband and wife have a fight, when they fight, they are although staying together at home, but both are not talking with each other and both are not serving each other. So they are experiencing a kind of Shantras, you can say. So this is a kind of Shantras which the yogis or the devotees who have attained in Vaikuntha experience. In Dasras, there is intimacy in the form of, oh, the Lord is the master, I am his servant. And there is service in Dasya Bhav. Oh, he is Prabhu, Aishwarya, he is Narayan, he is the Lord of Vaikuntha. I am just his servant. So there is Aishwarya Gyan, and in that Gyan there is service. And there is no higher rasa in the Vaikunthas. In fact, in Vaikuntha there are only 2.5 rasas. Half means Sakya. Sakya is there, and that is called as Gaurav Sakya. Gaurav Sakya means there is awe and reverence even in that.
Respectful friendship.
Pardon?
Literally. It's respectful friendship.
Yes, yes. There is Gaurav Sakya Ras. So that kind of friendship there is little intimacy, but we still understand, Lord is Lord. But in Vrindavan, the Sakas of Krishna can climb on Krishna. Tumo koda bada, Amitumo sama. Who are you, big person? And we both are equals. So that kind of intimacy is there only in Braj Bhakti. So that is not available in the other sampradayas because there is Aishwarya Gyan. That is the difference in the science of rasa. We will be discussing quite elaborately all this when we study the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
Yes, Prabhu. So,
Oh, you have something more to say? Just a minute. Yes, Mataji, sorry, I unmuted. Is something more you want to say?
yes, Prabhu, actually one more. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then recognizes him to be superior. Superior to what, Prabhu?
Superior to the Gyanis. Those who are karmis, they are dear to the Lord. And those who have taken to the path of Gyan, they are superior to the karmis. The Lord is more dear to them. And those who are Jnana Vimukta and taken up to Bhakti, they are still more dear to the Lord. Lord Krishna recognizes them. Now, among all of us, we are all practicing Vaidhi Bhakti. We are very dear to the Lord. But among us, those who have attained Prema Bhakti, by practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti has attained Bhava or Prema, they are still more dear to the Lord. So like that, the superiority is being established. So those who, by the path of Gyan, who are liberated and who have taken up to Bhakti, they are superior to the Gyanis. They are superior to the Gyanis. I hope it is clear.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
There is one question here we will take up. Okay, the question is whether the Mayavadis come in the category of Gyanis. Now, the exact term which we use is impersonalist. And we discussed this before also. In the impersonalist, there are two categories. They are the Brahmavadis and the Mayavadis. So specifically here, when Prabhupada says Gyanis, he is referring to the Brahmavadis. Because the Mayavadis offend the form of the Lord. And because of their offenses, they fall down. The Gyanis who practice the Gyana path and don't offend the Lord's form, ultimately, by the process of that Gyan, might attain liberation. And they will attain liberation if their deep-rooted desire is that. But ultimately, with the purification of the heart, if they come in association of a devotee, understanding the glory of Bhakti, then they will take up to Bhakti. Ultimately, Krishna has a multi-level tire path by which everyone should take up to Bhakti. First, the karmis take up to the path of Karmakand and then gradually elevate to the path of Gyan. From the path of Gyan, ultimately, everyone is supposed to come to the path of Bhakti. So that is the path Krishna has given, the slow level of purification. So there's the last paragraph now we will discuss. Last two paragraphs are there. Now, among the Premi Bhaktas, the Gopis are the topmost and they are superior to other Premi Bhaktas like Narada and four Kumaras. The Premi Bhaktas are the Gopis in Madhurya Ras, they are still superior. So in one sense, in Braj Bhakti itself, those who are in Dasiras, those who are in Sakyaras are superior to those who are in Dasiras. Those who are in Vatsalyaras are superior even to Sakyaras. And those who are in Madhurya are superior to Vatsalya, Sakya, Dasya. So directly among the Premi Bhaktas, the topmost are the Gopis, who are the topmost devotees is being established here. Of all these devotees means all these Premi Bhaktas. The Gopis are recognized as superior because they do not want know anything other than satisfying Krishna. Nor do the Gopis expect any return from Krishna. Indeed, sometimes Krishna puts them in extreme suffering by separating himself from them. Nonetheless, they cannot forget Krishna. When Krishna left Vrindavan for Mathura, the Gopis became most dejected and spent the rest of their lives simply crying in separation from Krishna. This means that in one sense, they were never actually separated from Krishna. There is no difference between thinking of Krishna and associating with him. Rather, Vipralamba Seva, thinking of Krishna in separation, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, is far better than serving Krishna directly. So here Prabhupada is referring how the Gopis are superior because of their quality that they don't know anything else than satisfying Krishna. And they don't expect anything from Krishna. And even if Krishna puts them in suffering, they cannot forget Krishna. And they are simply crying for Krishna, although Krishna has put them in so much suffering. They are thinking about Krishna in separation is actually union with Krishna. That's what Prabhupada is explaining here. Now, this is quite elevated and lofty topic for us, but let us come to some ground reality. The Gopis are crying in separation from Krishna. Now, why do we don't feel separation from Krishna? So I'm speaking about myself as sadhaka. Why do we don't feel separation from Krishna? What is the reason? Anyone would like to answer can raise their hands. Or when do we feel separation from Krishna? Yes, there is one devotee who has raised their hand. When do we feel separation from Krishna? When do we feel actually separation from Krishna? This is very simple reality. When do you feel separation from another person? Okay. Yes, Mataji? Ratna Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. We'll feel separation when we have that love and attachment to him. We have forgotten about him and we are swimming in this ocean, thinking this is the place.
Yes. When we have developed love for a person, when we are attached to that person, and then only when there is union, then there can be separation. So we are not experiencing that union with Krishna, and that's why we don't feel separation from Krishna. Yes. Yes. Now, Prabhupada mentioned that there is no difference between thinking of Krishna and Krishna himself, because both are on the absolute platform, or associating with Krishna and thinking of Krishna. Now, why are we not experiencing union with Krishna? What is the way in this world we can experience union with Krishna so that ultimately we can feel separation from Krishna? Understanding this statement of Prabhupada, that there is no difference between thinking of Krishna and associating with him. How is it we can experience union with Krishna so that ultimately we can experience suffering? Yes, Mohan Lal Prabhu has raised his hand. Yes, Prabhuji.
By continuous remembering.
How do we continuously try to remember Krishna? What is the method for us? Yes, through the Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting. This is the point I wanted to come to. We can experience union with Krishna by chanting Krishna's name, because Krishna's name is non-different from Krishna. So why, when we are chanting the name of Krishna, we don't experience union then? Why don't we experience union if Krishna's name is non-different from Krishna? Yes, Mohan Lal Prabhuji. Yes.
Prabhuji may be inattentive chanting.
Yes, because we are doing inattentive chanting. Otherwise, if Krishna is present in his holy name and we could contact Krishna and experience union with Krishna, then when we don't experience that union, we will also feel separation. We have not developed that attachment to chanting. And we don't have this fundamental knowledge that Krishna is not different from his holy name. So when we come to the stage of ruchi, ruchi is taste for chanting. We have so much taste for devotional activities that if we don't do that, we feel that, I'm feeling void and emptiness in my life. And at the stage of asakti, we become attached to Krishna. And there is where we are experiencing union, and Krishna also sometimes will detach from us to experience separation. So at least at our sadhana platform, if we have this fundamental understanding, the feelings of the gopis, separation from Krishna is a very, very elevated topic. It's a very lofty topic. But at least if we can realize this fundamental philosophy that Krishna's name is not different from Krishna, and we can experience union with Krishna in the holy name, then definitely slowly, if we cultivate chanting, especially by doing attentive chanting, then we can definitely feel separation from Krishna. At least you will feel separation. I want to chant, where is my bead bags? I want to chant more rounds. At least we should come to that platform. Once Srila Prabhupada was flying in an airplane, and he had few of his disciples, his translator, his secretary, and even one or two sannyasis were there in the flight. And Prabhupada took his meal, and Prabhupada was just relaxing, and the other devotees were quite exhausted with whole tour. Being with Prabhupada means it's a very hectic schedule. So they were trying to catch up on their rounds. So in the flight, they were trying to chant and they were dozing. And Prabhupada saw that. So Prabhupada said, "Why are you sleeping?" "Prabhupada, we are all very tired," he said. Then Prabhupada said, "See, look at the materialist, how they are alert in their sense gratification. The only reason that you are not able to, you don't have taste for chanting, and that's why you are, feeling all this. So if we develop that taste for chanting, then we can, experience union with Krishna and ultimately separation. No one can excel the devotional service of Srimati Radharani. Indeed, even Krishna cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he took her position and appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to understand her transcendental feelings. So now, among the gopis, the topmost is Srimati Radharani. That is being emphasized here. Tabhyo pi sa Radhika. Tabhyo means among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is superior. Now, in the last paragraph, Preshta is dear. Now, how Srimati Radharani and Radhakund are non-different is explained in the last paragraph. In this way, Srila Rupa Goswami gradually concludes that Srimati Radharani is the most exalted devotee of Krishna, and that her Kunda, Leka, Sri Radhakund is the most exalted place. This is verified from the verse from the Padma Puran quoted in Lagu Bhagavatamrit and Chaitanya Charitamrit. Yatha Radha Priya Vishnu Tasya Kundam Priyam Tata Sarva Gopeshu Sevika Vishnur Atyanta Vallabha. Just as Srimati Radharani is dear to Supreme Lord Krishna Vishnu, Yatha Radha Priya Vishnu, so her bathing place, Tasya Kundam Priyam Tata, is equally dear to Krishna. Among all the gopis, Sarva Gopisha Sevika, she alone stands supreme as the Lord's most beloved, Vishnur Atyanta Vallabha. So here this verse mentions that just as Srimati Radharani is very dear to Krishna, similar, Tasya Kundam Priyam Tata, the Kunda is also very dear. Therefore, everyone interested in Krishna consciousness should ultimately take shelter of Radha Kund. It was mentioned here in the verse, Tam na ashrayat ka kriti. Who is there who will not take shelter of Radha Kund? Right? And execute devotional service there throughout one's life. This is the conclusion of Rupa Goswami in the 10th verse of Updeshamrit. So let us all take shelter of Radha Kund and start executing devotional service there. Is it possible for us? Can we go to Radha Kund and start executing our devotional service? No. Firstly, we have to practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and come to the point where we have cleared the anarthas and take up to Raganaga Bhakti. And only when we have mastered Raganaga Bhakti, then at the stage of Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti, we are qualified to reside in Radha Kund and execute devotional service. But as I was mentioning, the mood of our acharyas is that we preach the message of devotional service wherever we are situated, and preaching is very dear to Krishna. In fact, when we preach the glories of bhakti, we are preaching about Srimati Radharani, and ultimately we will attain the mercy of Srimati Radharani. So our acharyas never recommended, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada never recommended us to, although if we are qualified to go to the banks of Radha Kund and reside there and perform devotional service in the perfected stage also. It was never recommended by them. In fact, many of the Vaishnava Sampradaya Acharyas never visited also Radha Kund. What to speak of residing there? Srinivas Acharya never visited. Pundrik Vidyanidhi never visited. Gadadhar Pandit never visited. Never visited Vrindavan. They all stayed in their, Kshetra, wherever Krishna had given Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they executed their devotional service. So we will come to more about Radha Kund and executing devotional service. But most important is one has to have adhikar to perform devotional service on the banks of Radha Kund. That means he should be in his spiritual body. That was mentioned in text 9. It is mentioned here in text, here only, aprakrit bhav. Aprakrit means spiritual. So one should be situated in the spiritual body. That is only at the stage of bhava. So aprakrit bhav and aprakrit seva, transcendental service. So his existence is also transcendental. So this is a very, very lofty stage of devotion. And even if we attain that, we will still stick on to the path given by our acharyas. So that we will come more in detail in the 11th verse, which we will discuss tomorrow. Tomorrow we will require only 1 hour class. We will discuss because there are only 2 paragraphs here. And tomorrow we will discuss and conclude the discussion of Updeshamrit. Yes, Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. As we saw in text 9, the hierarchy of the important places, and that's how we have come to Radha Kund being supreme, because it's associated with Srimati Radharani. So, why only the Kund, Prabhu? Why not like Lord Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill, and the Govardhan hill is so pious. He put his feet on the Brajbhumi, and the dust there is so pious. So among all the things with which Radharani is associated, why only the Kund? Or is it my lack of awareness, Prabhu? Or are there other things which are also as pious as that, and I'm not aware of it?
Okay, this is a very, very confidential discussion, in fact. And this to understand for us, firstly we have to understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us devotion in the wake of the Gopis, especially the Manjaris. Especially the Manjaris. This is first point to be understood. Now, it is very interesting. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his lectures on which he delivered on the bank of the Radhakund, he explains that in Vrindavan also Krishna does Ras Leela. He performs his Ras Leela. So we can participate in the form of Gopis in Krishna's Ras Leela in Vrindavan, just like Narad Muni participated and became Naradiya Gopi, or Lord Shiva participated and he became Gopeshwar there. But why on the bank of Radhakund? Why Radhakund is being highlighted specifically? Now, I cannot go more into these topics and details, but just to answer your question, Krishna performs his pastimes in the 24-hour, a day, what is there? And 3 hours is called as Prahar, and there is called as Ashta Prahar Leela. Ashta means 8. So what is called in our Gaudiya tradition, the Ashtakaliya Leela, 8-fold pastimes of the day, which Krishna performs, right from morning till the night. These pastimes Krishna performs at various places. But the Madhyana pastimes, the Madhyana is the afternoon pastimes, is actually where Radha and Krishna come at the banks of Radhakund, and the Gopis also come there to serve Krishna, Radha and Krishna. So the highest spiritual pastimes of the highest level happen on the banks of Radhakund, between Radha and Krishna. That is in the Madhyana. Not the highest pastimes which happen even in the night, that is the Ras Leela which happens in Vrindavan. So there, Rup Goswami is giving us entrance. That is why he's giving us the prayojan. Our goal is to practice our bhajan on the banks of Radhakund, because there you can become an assistant of Srimati Radharani in the same mood as the Gopis or the Manjaris, that mood. So this highest aspiration is what is being given by Rup Goswami to us. And that is why it is very difficult even when we go through the Upadeshamrita to understand these things. So that is the reason Rup Goswami is referring to Radhakund. And we also discussed, if you remember in the last class, that Krishna performs Ras Leela in 3 places: Vrindavan, Govardhan, and Radhakund. And the highest rasa he experiences on the banks of Radhakund. And Krishna's love for Srimati Radharani fully overflows only on the bank of Sri Radhakund. So Radhakund is like that, so glorious for us. I hope this is sufficient and clear.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Any other questions anyone has? Okay, so we will stop here. So tomorrow is our last class on the Upadesha. Okay, Madan Mohan Prabhuji has raised his hand. We will take up. Yes, Madan Mohan Prabhuji.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Dhanavad. My question is not on this subject, but on the questions, that open book questions that we are supposed to do.
Then one second. Then let me finish this session and then we will take up. Okay. So we will end this session now.